Guys, can you hear the traffic behind me or no?
Yeah.
Ananda Bihari? Does it sound clear? Hello? Anybody?
Yeah, the sound is clear. But
Nice and clear. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 29, Krishna and the Gopis meet. And we are on text number 12. Shri Parikshit Uvacha Krishnam Vidu Param Kantam Natu Brahmataya Mune Guna Pravaha Paramas Tasam Guna Diyam Katam. Shri Parikshit Maharaj said, "O sage, the gopis knew Krishna only as their lover, not as the absolute truth. How could these girls, their minds caught up in the waves of the modes of nature, free themselves from material attachment?" Purport. King Parikshit was sitting in the assembly of great sages and other important personalities, listening to the words of Shukadeva Goswami. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, as Shukadeva began speaking of the gopis' conjugal love for Krishna, the king noticed the expressions on the faces of some of the more materialistic persons present there and realized the doubt lurking in their hearts. Therefore, although the king thoroughly knew the purport of Shukadeva's words, he presented himself as experiencing personal doubt so that he could eradicate the doubts of others. That is why he asked this question. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Munitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Katanchana Smite Yasmin Duskaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismite Viparitam Shatshi Chaitanya Namamitam. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is very expertly noticing the reflections, the mood of those who are in the audience, who are hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he's seeing that there's some kind of lack of appreciation and understanding of this very, very elevated, very, very exalted pastime of Krishna and the gopis. And so he asked this question, well, how can the gopis, how could these girls who are in their minds are just covered over by the modes of material nature, lust, how could they free themselves from attachment? They saw Krishna only as their lover, not Param Satyam, not the Brahmataya. They were not seeing Brahman. That otherwise they would just, Brahman is everywhere. They would serve their husbands as Brahman. Why? So he's addressing different misconceptions that are there by the audience. Srila Prabhupada describes that Srimad Bhagavatam is, if you're a serious student, you have to understand it successively. You can't just read here and there. Otherwise, various misconceptions will come about. During Srila Prabhupada's time, there was many devotees developed these reading groups, and they would gather together. The men would gather in one gathering, the women would gather in another gathering, and they would read specifically the pastimes of Krishna that were related to the gopis, all these romantic pastimes, with the idea of becoming purified. What were they reading? Were they reading like random books from Rasa Bihari Lal, some just like different random books available by who knows translated, what kind of qualified person is presenting it? No, they were reading just Srila Prabhupada's books. And this was nicknamed the Gopi Bhava Club. We would look at it, it seems quite innocent, especially in our later standards. But Srila Prabhupada felt that this was actually a great degradation. He said, you will not become purified, you'll become putrefied. Because these are actually quite elevated, very, very elevated. And so he described that actually these pastimes of Krishna, he describes in the introduction that by the 9th canto, if we are a very serious student, we'll be fully God realized by the 9th canto, not just self-realized, God realized by the 9th canto. And therefore, a 10th canto, then we can begin to relish the pastimes. Similarly, I believe it is the last verse in the 7th chapter of the 2nd canto. Prabhupada gives a very extensive purport, and he is repeating the words of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's simple presentation of the verse is that if we study Maya in relationship with Krishna, then we go beyond Maya. So that means we have to understand Krishna's relationship with not his internal lila, but his external lila. We have to understand his relationship with this world, like how you read Srimad Bhagavatam 1st canto, 2nd canto, there's a lot about his manifesting the world, how there is this gigantic form of Lord Vishnu known as Karanadakshay Vishnu. He is so big that when he exhales, entire universes come out of his pores. He's so massive, so big. And then he takes a much, much, much smaller form known as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And that form is so small that he fits in one of those universes just perfectly. And from him, this lotus flower is born from his belly button, sprouts from his belly button, and Lord Brahma is born. And so then he enters into even a much, 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 much smaller form known as Shirodakshay Vishnu, where he enters into the heart of every atom, or enters the heart of every creature, and then he also has his own abode in a place called Swetadu. So this is Krishna's interaction with his external energy. These are the 3 super souls, or the 3 Purushas, the Pumsams, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo. Not Savai Pumsam, but Ete Chamsa Sakala Pumsam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. All the avatars come from these Purushas, these three forms, specifically Shirodakshay Vishnu and Garbhodakshay Vishnu, mostly from Shirodakshay Vishnu, the super soul that's in the heart of all creatures and who also resides in the Sweta Dweep, the abode where there's the milk ocean. That's why when the demigods want Krishna, are requesting for Krishna to appear, they go to the abode where there's the milk ocean, they offer their prayers, and then they get some indication from within their heart of the answer. Krishna trivia question related to that. So the demigods prayed for Krishna to come to get rid of these demons. Why did the demigods warn Kamsa about Krishna? Why did they said, "Kamsa, you fool, the 8th son of your sister will kill you"? Why did they do that? Trivia.
To facilitate the appearance of the Lord.
Oh, he was already coming. He was already coming. Anybody else? Any takers? Jealousy? No. What was Kamsa doing at the time? No, he was doing Vaishnav Seva. He was driving his sister to her new home. And the demigods were a little worried. We prayed for Krishna to appear, to kill this guy. And this guy is serving his devotee so nicely. Maybe Krishna will be a little soft on him. We got to get Kamsa to show his real colors. So they said, Kamsa, you fool! Her child's going to kill you. And then he showed his real colors. He grabbed her by the hair, pulled out his sword. And this way, they were a little afraid that what he was doing was going to soften Krishna towards to be too soft on Kamsa. So you have these external, what is called this external Leela. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he states that as long as we are under the clutches of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, anybody here under the clutches of external energy? Then there's a preference for understanding Krishna's interactions with the external energy. Now, does that mean we avoid hearing any pastime of Krishna? Because Krishna is having these pastimes with his internal energy, with the cowherd boys, with the gopis, with his mother. Do we, like, if somebody says Krishna stole butter, we're like, close our ears and we run away? No. We find that actually Srila Prabhupada had the first canto. Then shortly thereafter, 1970, he had Krishna book published. And then after, he had Nectar Devotion. So very, very shortly, he had Krishna book and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Nectar Devotion, or I think maybe Teaching Lord Chaitanya came after that or before that, I'm not sure. But Krishna book was very early in the series because he felt that it's important for devotees to have this object of attraction. We're attracted to the pastimes of the Lord. Now he says in the introduction that the pastimes of Krishna are attractive to everyone, that we should not misconstrue that our attraction is that we are somehow some great, wonderful, amazing Mahabhagavat pure devotee because we're attracted to Krishna. This is the materialists attracted to Krishna. They would have these Bhagavat Saptahas, we hear Prabhupada very much criticized, where they would hire somebody to speak, and this person was not a Nityam Bhagavata Seva. They weren't always serving the Bhagavatam. It was just at this point that they would focus, and they would just to incite the romantic, the amorous delights of the audience. They would just recite this. You go to the grocery store, you see all these romance books. So they would incite this kind of romantic feeling, this scandalous feeling within people, and that. So the people who would go to these Bhagavat Saptahas, neither the speaker nor the audience had any type of purification. It was the idea of some kind of enjoyment.
Quick question,
Yes.
talking to non-devotees, this is one of the most difficult things, the story of gopis and Krishna, because to most people, it sounds like a sexual romance.
Yes,
It's very difficult how you explain it because that's the way it sounds. How do you explain it to someone who's not a devotee?
Yes. So Prabhupada spent a lot of time elaborating all of this in Krishna books. So if you heard Angel Prabhu said, how do you explain this? Because this is very difficult. This is these 5 chapters. These are 5 chapters here. Panchajayi, these deal with this whole Rasa Leela. These are the chapters that the rascals like. These are the chapters that the materialists like to criticize. And these are the chapters that the devotees are very careful with. They approach it with great care and attention. And so here we see Parikshit Maharaj himself is approaching it with great care and attention. It's not something taken lightly. He is noticing that the sages that are there are also not qualified. These are exalted sages, some of them living hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of them have performed great austerities. They're not just your average New Yorker. They're great exalt, but still they're not so qualified. And so he asked this question. Senayor Ubayor Madhya, you find this in the Bhagavad Gita, that the Arjuna's chariot was situated in between both parties in such a way that both parties could hear everything. And so Arjuna, in the same way, would also often ask questions for clarification for the audience. It wasn't just for his own sake. He would ask, so the audience would, if he noticed that there was some kind of doubt that could come up by what was said. So the devotee is like this. He's always very careful in his presentation. He's not just, I'm speaking Krishna's eternal, beautiful pastimes. Otherwise, Shukadeva Goswami would have just started that in the beginning. Most essential, most beautiful pastimes. Just go right to the 10th canto. You would have just went that right there, but he presented this whole thing very, very systematically. So Parikshit, Iksha is also this Parikshit means to observe. To Pari is like complete, and so the acharyas describe that he has this sarva bhava. He's at this complete observation, like he's very observant. This is the devotee, the teacher, the preacher. They need to be observant of their audience. You see, is this person actually digesting? Like I told this story. There was this gentleman. He looked just like Ananda Bihari, and I was walking to catch the train to the Bhakti Center, and it was 3 different trains. So I was walking, and this guy, he sees me, and I look at him, and he has a certain look to him, and I looked at him because he looked just like Ananda Bihari, but then he's looking at me like I know you also. So I was, and then I start walking, and then he says, he passed, and I said, oh, that's not Ananda Bihari. So I keep on walking, and then the guy starts following me. He says, how are you saved? And I was like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. It's he's one of these heavy duty preachers who want to like tell people what to do. So he followed me, got on the train with me, and he was discussing and debating. And what I would speak to him is that the teacher, their whole point is to translate, to actually present as it is, but present in such a way the person actually hears it and digests it. What's the point of having this sense of pride that I told somebody this, I told and they didn't like it? There's a sense of, if you teach the truth and they don't like it, that means you're doing the right thing. If you tell people they're hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, if you tell people they're sinners and rascals, that just means you are a truth speaker. But if there's no digestion, if you're not actually concerned that the person is somehow digesting the medicine, if you're just trying to force it down their throat and they don't actually accept it in one way or another, then it's called, in our tradition, preaching to the faithless. It's an offense. You actually create a greater sense of distance between them and God. And so he followed me a few train stops and then ended up here at the Bhakti Center. I out in the front. I told him, I got to go. And I spoke to him kind of calmly. Luckily, I spoke to him calmly. And sometimes these personalities, they like to get very theatrical. And then we had a program here with Radhanath Swami, and it was a very nice program. This was, and then we left, like this was about 4 or 5 hours later. I came downstairs and the guy was still standing out there. Oh, what is going on? And so I saw him, and then I came back up for a little bit. I found out that my wife and the kids went to the playground right over there. And he went into the playground. He started screaming at the kids that they were going to hell. This is right before Rath Yatra. And so then I went over there. The mothers were ready to like gut him. They're feeling that Nishringadev kind of like don't mess with the kid vibe. And so I started talking to him, and I kind of passed him on to these devotees. I think the devotees in Syracuse, or no, from one upstate, somewhere in upstate. And later I apologized. I said, it was either you guys or the kids. But you see here, Pariksha Maharaj is very concerned that these pastimes are understood. We'll continue next verse. Shri Shuka Vacha Uktam Purastat Etate Chaidya Siddham Yatagataha Dvishan Api Hrishikeshan Kim Udaksho Utta Aktokshaja Priyaha. Shukadeva Goswami said, this point was previously explained to you previously, since even Shishupal, who hated Krishna, achieved perfection, then what to speak of the Lord's devotees? Actually, it's described by the acharyas that Shukadeva Goswami is speaking very cuttingly. You already heard this before. I've already explained this. Not for Parikshit's case, but for the case of those who are kind of approaching it in a very, as it says here, materialistic persons, or people who are just not as realized in Bhagavan realization. So he's speaking very clearly. This was already explained to you, since even Shishupal, who hated Krishna. So this is in 7th canto. It's described Dvishan, those who are approaching in hate, those who are approaching in all these different things. If they're focused on Krishna, then they're purified. What to speak of those who are approaching in a favorable mood, like the gopis. The acharyas will go to explain that actually even the gopis, even though he says it's a favorable, it's actually not even material. It's not even any type of material sense of lust. So let's read the purport. Although the spiritual nature of the conditioned souls may be covered by illusion, Lord Krishna's spiritual nature is omnipotent and is never covered by any other power. In fact, all other powers are his energy, and thus function according to his will. The Brahma Samhita says, Shishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shaktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Api Yasya Cha Chetastesa. The mighty Durga, who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material worlds, is the potency of the Supreme Lord, and she moves like his shadow according to his desire. Thus, because of the Lord's spiritual influence, does not depend on whether someone understands him or not. The gopis' spontaneous love for Krishna guaranteed their spiritual perfection. The great Madhvacharya quotes the following relevant passage from the Skanda Purana. Krishna kama sada gopyas yakva deham dvevam gataha samyak Krishna param brahma yakva kalat paramam yahu. At that time, the gopis who desired Krishna gave up their bodies and went to the spiritual world. Now, the acharyas actually present different understandings of this gave up bodies. Some of it is that they actually became purified and they did not give up their bodies. Because they properly understood Krishna, the absolute truth, they transcended the influence of time. Purvicha jnanam samyuktas tatrapi prayashastata tastasam param brahma gatir asin nakamataha. In the previous lives, most of the gopis were already fully endowed with transcendental knowledge. Because of this knowledge, not their lust, they were able to attain the supreme Brahman. Natu jnanam rite moksho nanya pateti hishrutihi kama yukta tada bhaktir jnanam chato vimukti gaha. The Vedas declare that without spiritual knowledge, there's no valid path to liberation. Because these apparently lusty gopis possess devotion and knowledge, they achieved liberation. Ato mokshepi tasamta cha kamo bhaktya nuvartate mukti sabdito chadyam prabrito dvesha bhaginaha. Thus, even in their attainment or liberation, lust followed as a manifestation of their pure devotion. After all, what we call liberation was experienced even by envious persons like Shishupal. Little note here. So in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita, Sanat Goswami, Bhagavatamrita is, there are two Bhagavatamritas. There's a Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is 3 large volumes, and there's a Lagu, the light Bhagavatamrita. It's 1 volume. And it's presenting the essential philosophy of the Srimad Bhagavatam in a very, just 1 fat volume instead of 12 cantos. And so there, the question is brought up. Sanat Goswami quotes the Vishnu Puran, and in the Vishnu Puran, there's this question. Maitreya Muni asked this question. Maitreya Muni asked Parashar Muni. He says, well, if Nrsingadev is the Paravasta, the complete form of the Lord, there's described that there are 3 Paravasta forms. You'll find this, Prabhupada repeats this. This is Krishna, Rama, and Nrsinga. These are the 3 forms that the 6 opulences are manifested in full. There are other forms, avatars. You have Avesh, you have Amsa, you have Kala. You have different forms where he's not fully manifesting, or he's even just empowering another jiva. But these are Paravasta forms, fully manifested. And so why was Hiranyakashipu not liberated? He was killed by God. Why was he not liberated? And this is specifically referring to, this is not referring to this story of Jai and Vijay, because the killing of Hiranyakashipu happens in different kalpas, in different cycles of the 4 yugas. And so this is not referring to the specific pastime where Jai and Vijay came down, and this was just the conclusion of the 3-birth curse. But specifically these, because not Krishna fights many demons, not always is it Vaikuntha gatekeepers. And so he's speaking about one of those actual regular demons named Hiranyakashipu, whose next life took birth as Ravana, and his next life took birth as Shishupal. So he said, why was he not liberated? Why was not Ravan liberated when he was killed by Ram? And then when Shishupal appears, he is liberated by this dealing with Krishna. And so, although these are the all-powerful, fully manifest personalities of Godhead, are they not Krishna? Is Nrsingadev not Krishna? Is he not Krishna, or is he Krishna? He's Krishna. They're not different in tattva, but they're different in guna, in manifest qualities. And so Krishna has a certain, Nrsingadev is called Prabhav Bhuma, power personified. And Rama is called Madhurya Bhuma, beauty. He's very beautiful persona. But Krishna is even more enchanting, that he has a special. So when Nrsingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, it's described that Hiranyakashipu did not see Krishna as Nrsingadev as God. He considered that this was some powerful being that attained this position due to some karma, some piety. And even Ravana, he was attracted to Sita, but he did not have any respect for Ram. He did not see him as the supreme personality of Godhead. He saw him as an ordinary human being that may have attained some powers. So he did not have this absorption. Now, when Shishupal was a child, he was heavily. So the result of being killed by Krishna, Hiranyakashipu in his next life was born with unparalleled opulence. And Ravana, he was born in his next life with great opulence in the great aristocratic family. Now, when Shishupal was born, he had intense absorption and hatred. Someone said Krishna's name, and the child cried for months. He's just so upset hearing Krishna's name. Then what to speak of later when his sister was taken marriage to the person who already has so much hatred, so much absorption. It's described that so that you have this Rajasuya Yagya, and in the Yagya, they decide, okay, who is the person who's going to be honored? And then there's different debate, and then they decide Krishna. He is so upset. His lip is quivering. And the names of Krishna just start flowing out of his mouth. Krishna, like again, back to a fanatic preacher. We were on Harinam in Dallas, and this guy was standing on literally on a soapbox. And he was like, Krishna's the devil, Krishna, and he was just saying every other syllable out of his mouth was Krishna. It was like, Krishna's this, Krishna's that, Krishna's this, Krishna's that. And he was just like screaming and foaming in the mouth. And he was just, this little Mataji ran up and punched the guy in the face. And I was like, why? He's chanting. He's like, he's a offender or something. So there was a little disagreement among the devotees. Well, he doesn't even know anything. What can you do as an offense? He doesn't. You have to know something at least. But this guy was chanting like this. He's like, I never heard. He was chanting more than us. He was so absorbed. So Shishupal was like this. He was just. The names of the Lord just started flowing from his mouth. Actually, it's even described as we had in a previous class how Sarasvati changed everything he said. Everything was actually a glorification. It was a hidden glorification. His different criticisms, and he was just Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And he had this benediction that when he was born as a child, he looked very hideous, and the mother was told. If you lay this child on a certain personality's lap, he will attain a very beautiful form, but that person in the future will be his killer. And so she would put this child, and she put the child on Krishna's lap, and he turned into a normal, he had like a monstrous form. He turned very beautiful. And she said, Krishna, please don't kill my child. He said, why? I would forgive this child 100 insults. So at that, the 100th came after, at the Rajasuya Yagya. That was it. And he was just, that was the end of Shishupal. But everyone saw that the soul of Shishupal merged into the body of Krishna. And he actually, Prabhupada describes that from mentoring Krishna, he went back to the spiritual world as one of the eternal associates. So why was Shishupal liberated? And this is described, Bhagavatam. This is a special position of Krishna, that he is infinitely, magnanimously charming, that he enters everyone's heart with his great sense of charm. That Krishna tightened his belt, he slapped his arms and jumped right into the Kalia, the river that, the lake that Kalia was in. And he was thrashing about as this huge wave came, he was thrashing about, and Kalia came out with just like poison in his eyes, just so angry. And as he came up, it's described, he was like, damn, he's beautiful. When he saw Krishna, he was like, whoa. So Krishna has this particular charm that you can't feel very passive about him. He just enters the person's heart. And so, this is, Bhagavatam Rita has given this explanation that this is a special significance of Krishna's form, that he has this infinite charm, and then he enters everyone's heart, and Therefore, this is the supreme, the Swayam Bhagavan. This is the original form of the Lord where everything is being revealed. And so the gopis are actually they're revealing the Adi Ras, the original relationship, or the culmination, the acme of all relationships. And it's the most absorbed. It's not that Krishna wanted to, okay, I purify these devotees who are covered with lust, or I will enjoy with them just because they're devotees. Actually, Krishna wanted to enjoy transcendental romantic relationships. That's what the Acharyas explain. The whole thing is transcendental. There's nothing material or mundane about it. So just finish this purport. Bhakti margi pritan muktim bhagat Vishnu prasadata kamas ashubhat putrich chapi bhakti Vishnu prasada kriyats. By the mercy of Lord Vishnu, those one who follows the path of devotional service gains liberation as a byproduct. And such as a person's lusty desires would normally invoke misfortune, and instead invokes the mercy of Vishnu when exhibited in pure devotion. Now, this is more of like a conventional understanding. This is not the kind of understanding you find from the six Goswamis. Like if you read the different commentaries, Goswamis get more explaining that actually this is not even a compassion of the Lord. This is actually an attraction by the Lord. Dveshi jiva yuktam tapi bhaktim Vishnu vimochayet ahoti karuna Vishnu's shishupalayasya mokshanat. Lord Vishnu will save even a devotee from an envious life. Just see the extreme mercy of the Lord as showing his granting liberation to Shishupal. Shishupal was the Lord Krishna's cousin. He was mortified when Lord stole the gorgeous young Rukmini, whom Shishupal himself was hell-bent on marrying. For various other reasons, also Shishupal was consumed with envy of Lord Krishna. He finally, he insanely offended him in the great assembly called the Rajasuya sacrifice. At that time, Krishna nonchalantly cut off Shishupal's head and gave him liberation. Everyone present saw the effulgent soul of Shishupal rise out of his dead body and merge into the existence of the Lord. The seventh canto explains that Shishupal was an incarnation of the gatekeeper in the spiritual world, cursed to take birth on earth as a demon. Since even Shishupal was liberated by the Lord, one who took into consideration the whole situation, then what to speak of the gopis who loved Krishna more than everything, more than anything. So we can stop here, ask if you can have any reflections or any questions or comments. Yes, Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. There's a lot of technical things also. So I'm just a little bit curious. Yes, Lord appears again and again in different the cycles, yoga cycles, and then he kills demons. But I'm first time hearing like the Hiranyakashipu who was killed. So only once he's the gatekeeper. So that's
Yes.
what.
Once or it's rare. It's once or it's a rare circumstance. You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in the Vishnu in Lagu Bhagavatamrita, that's what it's the point is given that this is that they're specifically liberated by Krishna because Krishna has his ontological position of the great reservoir of rasa, that he's the most enchanting, attractive.
Oh, somehow I was just like an Indra is a post. So like Hiranyakashipu and these things also, like different demons come as Hiranyakashipus, like in different cycles. So that anyway, yeah.
Oh, another thing we want to say about the gopis that so Abhimanyu is Radharani's so-called husband. And so you have this word Abhiman. Abhiman means a mental conception. So in the spiritual world, the gopis, they're actually the husbands are not even there. There's no manifestation of them. It's only when they appear in the material world is there a manifestation of like Abhimanyu. Like there's this pastime, nectar devotion, where when Krishna tries to go see Radharani and Yavat, who is it, the stepmother, she's there and she's at the roof yelling, "Get away, you black snake!" And she's there. So Krishna once he came and dressed as Abhimanyu, and he said, "Be careful, mom. Abhimanyu is going to come dressed as me. Krishna's going to come dressed as me." So Abhimanyu starts coming back home, and she's throwing cow dung on him from the roof. Get him. But actually, it says these Radharani and these gopis, they actually had no interaction with their husbands. They had no actual interaction, but they did manifest forms in the earthly pastimes, but they still had no interaction. But in the spiritual world, it's this abhiman, just a mental conception. Otherwise, if you're reading Krishna book and it says Radharani is trying to escape from her mental conception, like I got it, like the parakriya rasa, it's much more interesting where the lovers can't meet. There's some challenge that they have to. Otherwise, it's just like okay, they married and that's it. It's over. Story over. They want to meet. They just hey, let's meet at this time. But there's all this intrigue and like challenge to their romance that it creates much more of an interest. And so our acharyas is explaining this is actually the highest form. Is this not swakya? Not that it's my own person, but it's somebody else's spouse. But it's actually just an apparent. It's not even that the gopis actually had no interaction with these personalities. Abhimanyu is the incarnation of Krishna's shadow. Abhimanyu, the husband of Radharani.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much.
Any other reflections? I don't know, Sri Krishna, all attractive. He's best. Let's go see Krishna.
Thank you, Nitai Chand Prabhu. Great class.
Great Krishna.
Jeffrey Eckler is worried that he'll be reduced to a shadow in the spiritual world.
They say Krishna shadow. Hare Krishna Lilia. Sage group. Sage group.
Hare Krishna.
Just not coming.
So it's taking forever.
For the song.
That thing is not working.
Okay. Andrea, how did they like the class? Priya and Prema. What's their takeaway?
My big takeaway is that that Krishna is so merciful that even puppies or souls in puppy bodies can get some kind of purification just from listening to Nityananda Chandra.
Yeah, just by listening to Nityananda Chandra Prabhu's tales, devotional tales, it can liberate us. Thank you, Nitai Chand Prabhu. Wonderful class. I promise I won't preach to the faithless. I'm not gonna yell at anybody on the subway. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. It's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. Don't go anywhere. We'll be here again tomorrow. Very eager to see you. Thank you for participating, for keeping your cameras on. Andrea, Lilia, Ekeshwara Prabhu, Ganesha. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees.